Psalm chapter 86, verse 11 says this, "Teach me your ways, O Lord, that I may live according to your truth. Give me a pure heart so that I may honor you." Now this comes from King David writing this, pleading with God once again, asking him to teach him God's ways. Now, honest question here, really quick. When was the last time that you asked God to teach you something? Now, don't worry, the answer for me is hard too. This is a hard question to answer, but when was the last time that you asked God to teach you something? I think part of the reason why this is such a hard question to ask ourselves is simply because our ways are not always God's ways. We talk about this a lot at youth group here at church, that a lot of times in life we have two decisions to go God's way or the world's way. And since we're part of the world and because of our nature, a lot of times our way is not the same as God's way. And we even see this in King David's life in other parts of Scripture. In fact, in one part in the Bible, King David steals another man's wife and then sends him to the front of battle to kind of get rid of him. So we see these sort of stories about King David where he exhibits and shows sin his way. He makes decisions based on what he wants instead of what God would want of him, which is one of the reasons why it's so cool that we see in this psalm. David writes, he's penning this letter, and he says, "Teach me your ways, O Lord. May I live according to your truth." King David knew that God's way was better than his way. And that's what I want you to think about right now is has there been a time in your life where you've realized that your way of doing things isn't exactly the way that God intended it to be or wants it to be? For me, when I was in 5th grade, I remember I was at recess and I was really just a young boy, and I pushed one of my friends down at recess and I kicked some gravel on him. And I remember laughing and the people around me laughing, but in reality, that was one of the first times in my life I could look back and say, God, I need a pure heart because mine is dirty. My way of doing things is not your way of doing things because I know you wouldn't treat other people like this. And so because David is sort of pleading, teach me your way, God, one of my challenges to you today is, has there been a point in your life where you've realized you need a pure heart? Yes, but have you asked God to teach you something and give you a pure heart? Feel free to pause the video if you need to rewatch what I just said, because I know that there was a lot packed into that. But what I want to do now is just enter into a time of prayer, and I want to ask that you slow down and takes about 45 seconds just to ask God how to live for Him. Ask God to teach you His ways. Ask God to give you a pure heart just like King David asked Him. And after you're done with that, stick around for one more challenge. Learning the ways of God is one of the most important things that we can commit our life to. And what do I mean by that? I mean learning more about God and what God expects of us as people who follow Him is worth giving your life to as a mission. And I hope that you see that through King David's words, because David certainly counted it as important, learning the ways of God. And I want to challenge you, just like I'm challenging myself right now, because I'm not very good at it either. This week, ask God, what can he teach you? What can you learn from him? Ask God to teach you actively something this week new about him. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.